Okay, so I got cut off again. We're used to that by now, though, right? What I can't figure out is, oh, there it is. Okay, so I got cut off right here where I was solving for y. I added 2 to both sides, and now where am I ready to do? I am going to finish getting the y by itself, so I'm going to divide by 3, divide by 3. Okay, that cancels out. Y is left by itself. You can divide 6 by 3. So 6 divided by 3 is going to be 2x. You can't divide that by 3, so you can leave it like that. It doesn't matter. You could have left the whole thing over 3. But now that we've got it solved for y, we need to go back and write it in function notation. Remember, this y is the inverse of the j function. Okay, so I would rewrite it like this. The inverse of the j function equals 2x plus 2/3. Or, of course, you could have went back and said 6x plus 2 over 3. Either one of those would have been fine. Okay, so I don't know where we are now. Let's take a look. Probably pretty close to checking your understanding. That's right. So here is your lesson 6-1 practice. So you should be able to do all of these. Let me run through these real quick just because this video is so short. Given that f and g are inverse functions, explain how you can find f of g of 20 without knowing the functions for f and g. The answer is going to be 20, isn't it? Because if you take 20, you're going to get a number and plug it in to f. And then since these are inverse functions, it's going to work and you're going to end up getting the same thing out that you put in. So I would say that the answer is 20. I'm pretty sure I'm right. I'm going to go look at the teacher's edition and make sure that I'm right. Yeah, you're going to get 20. Okay, so let me go back over here to student edition. Critique the reasoning of others. A student claims that h of x is 3x and j of x is equal to negative 3x or inverse functions. Is the student correct? Nope, because multiplying by 3, subtracting 3 does not undo that. These are not opposite. So if you see, and you can prove that by, let's see, coming over here and plugging in, pick a number, h of 1 equals 3 times 1 equals 3. If this is truly, if these are inverse functions of each other, what's going to happen when you plug in 3 into this function? You should get 1, what you started off with. Okay, so if you come over here and plug in now j of 3, you get negative 3 times 3, which is negative 9. You did not get what you started with. So those are not inverse functions of each other. The domain of a function is greater than 3. The range of that function is less than or equal to negative 2. What are the domain and range of the inverse? You simply reverse it. So the inverse will have a domain, and even though this said y, we're now going to change it. It's going to be x is less than or equal to negative 2, and the range is going to be y is greater than or equal to 3. You take this, and it becomes the range, so you change it to y. You take this, it's going to become the domain, so you change it to x. Mariana's average running speed is 6 miles per hour. Write a function d of t that gives the distance in miles Marina covers when she runs for t minutes. So d, I don't know why, again, they're using capital letters. 6t. What are the units for the domain and range? Okay, the domain is minutes. The domain is minutes. And the range is the distance, miles. Okay. Write both of them in interval notation. Okay, so we're talking about, now for minutes, we know it has to be greater than 0. And I guess technically she could run forever. It doesn't tell us that she's in like a marathon and only going 26 miles. It doesn't tell us that she's running a 3K. It doesn't tell us any of those things. So we don't have a boundary for her. So she starts and she could run forever. If she does run forever, then her distance is going to be anything from 0 to infinity. That's not actually reasonable, but they didn't give us any limitations. Okay. In both interval and set notation. Oh, for goodness sakes. And set notation, for domain, it's going to be t such that t is greater than or equal to 0. And for range, it's going to be d such that d is greater than or equal to 0. What are the units for the domain and range of the inverse of dt? Okay, so for this one, can we say the domain is going to be miles if it's the inverse, and the range is going to be minutes? How many minutes will it take Mariana to run 2.5 miles? Explain how you can find the answer by using the inverse. Okay, well, if she is using the miles, then the equation is, if we use d is equal to 6t, then the inverse of that would be to divide both sides by 6. T is equal to the distance divided by 6. Okay, so that's how you would do the time. Explain how you'd find the answers by using the inverse. So you would take the distance, how many minutes, so you would take 2.5 miles and divide it by 6. That's how I would explain that. Okay, so I think that gets you through this lesson, and you can now answer those questions right there. Okay, check It's Learning and make sure that this is what I've asked you to do. I may have added from the back of the book, or not the back of the book, but the back of the unit. I may have added some questions. So be sure you check It's Learning to see what the assignment is. Okay, good luck. Remember, it's 3 steps. Rewrite with the y, switch the x and y, and then solve for y. Okay?